Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and in this video I'm going to share some information with you on a little known plant that you might have seen everywhere but didn't know what it was exactly, called burdock. The botanical name is Ardicum lapa. Now the information I share with you is meant to educate and entertain you only, and it's not meant to be medical advice. So please do your own due diligence when it comes to identifying, harvesting, and in particular, consuming any plant or plant material. Now, burdock is one of those plants that is very well known as a common weed, especially if you're a hiker, and it's something that's not a favorite of hikers, especially if you hike with your pets and your dog, because what it will give you are these little burrs that stick everywhere to your clothes. In fact, one of the things that still happens as a grown-up when I hike with a couple of my brothers is they'll pick a piece of a dried burdock and then they'll hit the side of my pant leg with it, and then I have to spend sometimes an hour pulling off these little sticky burrs. And if you are a person who's been out and hiking, especially with your dog or in places where burdock grows, and you've had burdock on your shoes or your pants, or you've had to pull it out of your dog's fur, then you know what a pain this plant is. Now, this is a plant that is not very well known as far as using it medicinally, just commonly. Like dandelion is something we all know how to identify. We see it everywhere. We know that the leaves and the roots and the flowers are good for us, and we can make all kinds of things. But burdock is one of those plants that is actually, with herbalists and people who study plant medicine, are pretty familiar with, because it has powerful properties that are concentrated in the root. Now, the interesting thing about burdock is that the time that you want to use the plant is in the first season of growth. So when a burdock plant is growing, the best time to use and dig up the root to use or consume is after the first year of growth, and in the fall or in the spring before it starts its second year of growth, because then what happens is then the plant will bolt and it will grow really tall, up to 6 feet. And what happens is all of the concentration happens in the top of the plant, and the root is really not as viable as it would be if you'd collected it within the first year. And this is something that just takes simply knowing about it. So what makes this nice is you can identify a large burdock plant, not use that plant in particular, but look around it for the smaller burdock plants that have started to grow, and the seeds go everywhere. And this is where those little burrs come in, right? That's how they get around. So you can also use the leaves, and they do have some medicinal properties, but again, you want to use them while they're young and in the first season. So, cutting back burdock, this is not something I would suggest you grow in your yard. It is definitely a weed that, while it has powerful properties in the root, it's something that you would really have to pay attention to and maintain, and grow specifically if you have, say, a bigger area of land that you own. Maybe you own an acre. Be something really great to be put in the back of your acreage and grow it specifically so that you can harvest the medicinal properties that are in the root. Now, what I love about burdock, especially the root, is that it is really well known for its detoxifying and blood cleansing properties. It cleanses the liver in particular and the kidneys. So it does act as a mild diuretic, which helps move fluid through your body. But if your liver is being loved on and supported by burdock, it helps produce more bile and can actually go after a lot of different health issues, because now you've got an absence of inflammation that might be caused by a toxic liver. It's also really good for balancing blood sugar. And like I said, its most powerful is its ability to detox, support, nourish the kidneys and the liver. So it's just one of those things that if you do that, those organs can do their job and work properly. And burdock is powerful as a blood cleanser. So this is something that my dad taught us about. It's in one of his formulas. It's in our Essiac because of its powerful blood cleansing properties. So if you are a person who loves to go out and identify plants, this is something that you definitely want to make sure that you know how to identify and use it during the first season, either in the fall of the first growth or in the spring before it starts to grow, really grow again when it first starts to, get its flower, its leaves, and then its flowers. But if it's already 6 feet tall, then burdock is something that you definitely want to use and know only in the first year. Now, here's a couple of quick precautions. If you have allergies to ragweed or daisies or chrysanthemums, then burdock is something you should probably stay away from. If you are pregnant, then it's suggested that you don't use it during pregnancy because it has potential stimulating uterine properties. So something to know about and stay away from during pregnancy. And then the final precaution would be blood sugar. So if you have diabetes and you're on medications for that, because it can lower your blood sugar levels naturally, definitely check with your doctor, check with your healthcare practitioner, and see if this is something that you should either look into, consider, learn about. And as always, when you're identifying plants, make sure that you know how to properly identify what a burdock plant looks like so that you can very safely harvest the root at the proper time. Now, before I end this, there are some people who use the young leaves of a burdock plant as in their cooking for culinary uses. You can actually use it as a wrap, the young leaves. Now, during the second year, the leaves, they're tough, they become bitter, and you would know pretty quickly that this is not something you want to add into your diet unless you were desperate and you were hungry and looking for something to eat. But the majority of us don't have to do that, so just play around with it once you identify it properly. And I always like to say that if you live in a place where you can search out an herbalist or someone who can actually go out with you, teach you how and where to forage and properly identify plants. I know there are people all over the United States and in other countries that will offer herb walks. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to do as you're learning about foraging, identifying, and consuming natural things that grow out in the wild. So I'd love to know what you think about burdock. Do you have a different experience than I do? I know that growing up and even as an adult, I still have brothers who, and it's so funny how it's brothers teasing sisters, right? Who will take a piece of a dried burdock and just flick it on the side of your leg. And if you're wearing pants, you are going to be picking those burrs off for a while. So burdock is a beautiful blood cleanser, blood purifier, amazing for the liver and the kidneys. So let me know what you think. Do you love burdock as much as I do, even though it's an odd man out kind of a plant? If you are an herbalist, you might be familiar with this, or maybe you're just a plant lover. So I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.